Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is Students of the Snake in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. CH21 Travel. Anko's team regrouped in the central room of the Otokage Tower, and Anko brought along the client so her students could meet them. It turned out the client was a young woman, not quite at middle age yet but on the receding edge of her prime, accompanied by a short boy with a fisher's hat on. Both had dark hair and eyes and light-colored clothes, but the woman looked desperate while the boy looked disturbed. Everyone, this is the client and her son. Her name's Tsunami and the kid's name is Inari. Anko told her 3 genin, who gave the guests polite smiles and waves. Anko then faced the 2 from Wave. I'm Anko Mitarashi, the senior ninja. The one boy is my Otauto Naruto Uzumaki, the girl with the jacket is Hinata Hibiki, and the last member here is Isaribi Maikai. Nice to meet you all. I'm glad my son and I can get home safely now thanks to your help. Tsunami politely said to them all. Inari just silently scoffed, as if he didn't believe that, but nobody mentioned it. By the way team, Anko added. Otokage-sama told me that due to the uncertain nature of this mission, he's got another team assigned to work with us. I hope you can cooperate with them. Which team? Hinata asked. She was wearing a blue pair of contact lenses now so no one could tell she had a Byakugan. Last year's All Kunoichi team led by Kurane-chan. They'll be briefed on the mission momentarily and then we head out. Anko answered. Naruto raised his eyebrows in surprise, while Hinata and Isaribi shared a look in a thought. Kurane taught Haku, Sasami, and Fu, who became a permanent member of Oto a few years ago. That team had 1 more year of experience than their own team, and was doing quite well considering that most villages didn't assemble all Kunoichi teams. Usually because the leaders feared that an all Kunoichi team would be a tempting target for outlaws, 1 too tempting to pass up. 2 teams? Is the situation that bad? Tsunami asked, worried for her safety and her sons. Otokage-sama has reason to believe the mission may call for a little extra muscle later on. We will escort you back home but once we're there we'll need to investigate the threat to your country as to ensure you won't need us again anytime soon. Anko explained. Unlike others, we ninja try to do the job so that we and the customer don't need repeat business. Hinata added. Any idea what to do while we wait? Naruto asked. Hinata pulled out a deck of cards. Better than nothing. 10 minutes later Anko's team and Kurane's team were heading towards the eastern gate of Oto. All of them were wearing their hitayates, since they were now allowed to show off which village they were loyal to. They were quickly arranged so Kurane's team were in front of the clients while Anko's were in back, because as the more experienced unit Kurane's team could act quicker. Couldn't we in a wagon or something? Tsunami asked, not really liking the idea of walking all the way back to Wave. In fact, the entire trip from Wave to Rice was done by wagon, so she naturally assumed the trip back would be no different. We could, but we don't want to draw attention to ourselves. If you get tired we can still provide you a lift though. Kurane told her. How? Inari asked curiously. Either we can carry you, or one of my close friends can. Anko answered. But for now, let's start out with a nice walk and enjoy the weather. Why can't we start with a ride? Inari asked. Trust me kid, you don't want to start this trip the way she meant. Kurane answered. Why can't we use the way we got here? Inari asked his mother. How exactly did you get here by the way? Isaribi asked. I mean, it's not like our village is on any map. It's a long story. Tsunami replied. It's going to be a long trip, so why not? Naruto added. Okay then. You see, our country's economy is doing really bad lately due to a corrupt businessman. Tsunami started. The daimyo of your country has been sympathetic to our trouble and secretly sending us money and supplies so we don't go completely broke. A little while ago, I noticed something disturbing, and asked the people who brought us imports from here if they could get in touch with someone who could do something about it. They offered to bring me and my son directly here so we could plead our case to you. Anko and Kurane shared a look before returning their gaze to the young mother. Is that all? Yes. Why? Do you not believe me? Oh, it sounds believable, but it also sounds like you're omitting something. Kurane answered. The fact that you asked, do you not believe me, so soon shows that too. Anko pointed out. Tsunami sighed and looked skyward for a moment, making everyone stop in their tracks, waiting to hear what she'd say next. There is something more. You see, the disturbing thing I noticed was what looked like a group of ninja in an area I didn't think they were supposed to be. And they probably noticed me too. That's why I asked the import bringers to take me and my son away from there for a while so we could be safe. I didn't want to risk them attacking us at home that night. All present ninja shared looks amongst themselves, primarily with their own teams but not limited to just that. Would you happen to have seen any identifying symbols on these ninja? Anko asked. Tsunami nodded and pulled out a piece of paper. I drew one down. Anko looked at it and scowled. Definitely Konoha's mark. I was afraid of that. You see, not too long before that, my father went to Land of Fire to get some help for the bridge project he's working on. He also said he would try and get some ninja cheaply if he could. Tsunami continued sadly. Only help he'd get is from Konoha, who apparently have some shady business there already. Kurane commented. Yeah. I thought of that but didn't know what else to do. And I think he might bring them to our home as well. I'm worried that may only make the situation worse. Anko sighed. Alright, change of plans. We need to get to Wave as quickly as possible, preferably within the next day or so. That's impossible. Fu stated. Not really. We have one way that could work. Anko told everyone, then pointed to Naruto. Me? How can I get everyone across 2 countries and a sea in a day or so? He asked. Simple. Use your gravity control to make us all fly that way as fast as you can. Anko told him with a confident smile. That sounds like a great idea. Fu said with a pleased grin. Naruto had once taken his friends for a flight with that Kekkei Genkai and she was probably the one who most enjoyed it. The fact that her Baijuya had wings might be a factor in that though. Flying? How can you do that? Inari asked, sounding and looking for the first time something rather than irritated. Right now he was more intrigued than anything else. It's one of my many skills. And it could work, but the problem is I can only use it for so long. Naruto answered carefully. Among all of Naruto's Kekkei Genkais, all shared a common weakness. He could only use each one for at most 9 consecutive minutes, and once that time was up it automatically shut off, needing 9 consecutive seconds before he could reactivate it or switch to a different one. And the 9-second wait was mandatory even if he voluntarily deactivated the bloodline he was using. Most likely his children wouldn't have either of those problems according to the Kyuubi. There were more weakness to his abilities, but they varied amongst the individual Kekkei Genkais and were only present when he was using them. So go as far as you can in the time you can, take a break, and then start up again. Fu told him. But make sure we're back on the ground before you stop. Sasami added. Is there really no better alternative? Isaribi asked, for she was afraid of heights. Sadly no. We need to hurry and this is for the best. Anko told her student. Fine. But if I have to do this, then at least let me ride on Naruto-kun's back so I'll feel safer. Isaribi demanded. Yeah, I'm sure that's the only reason. Several present girls thought sarcastically. Naruto turned to show his back. Hop on Isaribi-chan. She wrapped her arms around him and he wrapped his own to hold her in place. Everyone ready? You might want to hold on to your own son for this, ma'am. Kurane warned Tsunami, who quickly held him to her maternally. You don't get vertigo or motion sickness, do you? Tsunami shook her head negatively. Okay, we should be clear. Gotcha. Naruto replied, then activated his Kekkei Genkai. Everyone around him suddenly became weightless and then he made them start to hover. He started out slowly to give the clients a chance to handle the new experience. Fortunately they weren't freaking out, but did look unnerved. Hoping to get the shock over with for them, he got everyone above the trees and made them go forward about as fast as falcons could fly. Tsunami's main thoughts on this were, is there anything ninja can't do, while Inari's was I'm actually flying. This is awesome. Everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves but Isarabi, who kept her face buried in Naruto's hair and her arms and legs tight as clamps around her ride's body. Naruto meanwhile couldn't help but notice the fact that her chest was pressing nicely into his back, but wasn't sure if that was intentional or not. The trip went well but not quickly, with Naruto not reaching maximum speed for the sake of the civilians. He did eventually go higher to avoid the risk of being seen, and everyone kept an eye on the time limit, lest they plummet to the ground. Tsunami was initially frightened for the first 2 times but by the 3rd time she got more relaxed and was actually able to enjoy it a bit. Not quite as much as Fu, who kept asking for Naruto to let them do some barrel rolls and loops for fun but kept getting turned down. 3 hours later they had reached the shore of Land of Fire and the small stretch of sea that separated them from Wave Country. "Can I take a break? I'm a bit tired," Naruto complained. "No problem. We can take it from here, Otauto," Anko answered. The next moment a couple of giant snakes were summoned, frightening Tsunami and Inari quite a bit. "It's alright, these guys won't bite. Besides, they're constrictors so they're not poisonous even if they did." "That's not funny, sensei," Hinata told Anko as she and several others climbed onto one of the snake's back. "You actually get along with snakes?" Tsunami asked fearfully. "You bet. In fact, one of my best friends growing up was a snake," Anko answered, then summoned her personal summons Kajiyaku along with Naruto's old snake Sango. Once the 2 kids under Orochimaru's care became old enough to defend themselves, Manda ordered the 2 snakes to be returned, but allowed them to be personal summons for Anko once she signed the snake contract. "Why don't you say hi?" Hello," Tsunami said meekly. "Hey Sango, long time no see," Naruto said with much enthusiasm to the orange and black snake, which slithered over to him so he could pet her. "Things still going well for you, kid?" Sango asked. "It talked?" Inari asked in surprise. All the summoned snakes turned to face the boy, without menace, but it still scared him. "Did you think we summoned plain ordinary snakes, kid?" Anko asked. "Come on, let's get going," Kurane told everyone. Tsunami and Inari got settling on one of the big snakes, and they started swimming to the island country. CH-22 assistance. "Wow, that's one big bridge," Naruto whispered as the sight of a large unfinished bridge came into view from the fog surrounding the area at the time. "Bet it will look better when it's done," Hinata whispered while she held onto him from behind. Isarabi meanwhile was looking into the water from her position on the front of the snake they were riding. "Wish I could go for a quick swim. Guess I can wait a bit longer." Naruto, Hinata, and Isarabi were riding one snake while Haku, Fu, and Sasami were riding another, both teams creating a defense around the snake that was carrying Anko, Kurane, Tsunami, and Inari. So far there were no problems other than a lot of mist, which had Hinata activate her Byakugan to keep an eye out. Luckily no one who didn't already know of her Kekii Genkai could see her use it. "Wish I could talk to Naruto about this opportunity, but with Isarabi-chan so close I don't think I should," Hinata quickly commented in her head. The opportunity she had in mind was telling the other girls about Naruto's need for multiple women since they were all in the same place together. A better chance would probably never come along. What the hell, if she hears us talking she might actually support the idea. And it might get her what she wants too. "Hey, Naruto-kun," she whispered into his ear to catch his attention. "Yes, Hina-chan," he replied somewhat above a whisper. "While we're here on this mission, do you think we ought to tell everyone about your situation?" Hinata asked. Naruto gave the aforementioned team a quick glance before answering. "It might be a good idea. But should we do it before or after the mission is over?" "What situation, Naruto-kun?" Isarabi asked, pretty sure she knew which one but choosing to play innocent. Something the Sunin told me about that's kind of difficult to just come out and say," Naruto nervously answered. "Is there anything I can do to help you with it?" Isarabi asked, trying her hardest to pretend to be unaware. Her blush wasn't helping. "That depends. You might not like it once you hear it. And if I'm okay with it?" Naruto wasn't expecting that response, so he thought over it and sighed. "Then I would love to have you help me out." Isaribi turned so he couldn't see her blush or perverted grin. Bingo. That's all the invitation I need. Once they reached land and continued to Tsunami and Inari's hometown, the area felt unhostile, so they didn't move in a hurry. However, they did avoid any main roads and stuck to moving within the forest and tree tops. Years of being told to be as secretive and discreet as possible when on missions created such behavior in Oto Ninja. At the moment they were on the ground for the sake of their clients. The summoned snakes quickly left the area since they didn't feel needed anymore. After about 20 minutes of moving, Anko and Kurane came to a stop, making the rest of their group stop as well. Listen. You guys hear that? All ears strained to catch any unusual noise. At first all they could hear were normal forest sounds, but a subtle note of metal hitting metal could be heard to a few of the genin. Sounds like a fight's going on. Sasami stated. Hinata, check it out. Anko ordered. Said girl nodded and activated her Byakugan. What she saw made her gasp. There's a fight east-northeast of us, and it looks like Mamakai-sama is in it. Ota-san. Haku asked, having no idea her adoptive father, whom she respected 100-fold more than her biological one, was anywhere near here. What's he doing here? No idea. Who's he fighting? Kurane asked. I see him fighting one man with white hair directly, and there are 3 kids our age standing by another older man. One of the 3 kids just threw a large collapsible shuriken, but it missed Mamakai-sama. All are wearing Konoha Hitaiates. Hinata told everyone. Damn it. Anko said under her breath. What's the older man look like? Tsunami asked as she pulled out a photo in one of her pockets. Is this him? With her Byakugan, Hinata barely needed a second to find out. Yes, that's him. He's your father, I'm assuming. Yes. He's not in danger, is he? Hinata shook her head. He's guarded well, but that's only because the 3 ninja around him are just genin at best. They know they have no chance against someone like Zabuza Mamakai-sama. Why is he fighting them? Fu asked. There's only one way to find out. We gotta get him out of the fight and come to us, but without the Konoha shinobi finding out we're here. Kurane analyzed. Won't that be interfering with his own mission? Naruto asked. I highly doubt Otokage-sama would assign us to transport these people home safely while assigning another person to kill one of their relatives. Anko told her student. What would be the point? It would increase the risk of the client seeing the death and we'd get bad publicity and risk losing future business. And besides, what threat to anyone can the old man pose? He poses a threat to Geto, that's for sure. Tsunami replied, making an airy nod. Haku took a step forward. Sensei, let me be the one to handle Ota-san. He'll be more understanding and forgiving if I'm the one who does it. Plus, I've got the necessary tools to do it without revealing our presence. Kurane thought it over for a second, and nodded. Go right ahead, Haku. Haku reached into her pack and pulled out a mask resembling that of a Kiri hunter ninja. One of the best strategies employed by Otonin on the job in the past had been pretending to be allied to other villages while doing dirty work, thus lowering the reputation of rival villages while keeping their own unknown. Sometimes they pretended to be one of their allies to raise their reputation too. Haku generally played the role of a Kiri shinobi as a way of getting back at her birth village for what they tried to do to her. With her disguise in place, Haku went into the trees to act out her role. Hinata kept watching in case something happened to go wrong. Not that she expected it to, after all Haku did have field experience, so she knew what she was doing. Haku perched on a branch and concealed her chakra as best she could. Nobody in her line of sight suspected a thing. She noticed that only one of the Konoha ninja was actually giving Zabuza any trouble, and that one was a white-haired man with most of his face covered. Haku arched an eyebrow when she saw him like that. The mask I can understand, but doesn't having one of his eyes covered affect his depth perception and range of vision? Since he's dripping wet, I guess that means he was caught in a water prison but somehow got out recently. And since he's the oldest, I'm going to assume he's a Jounin sensei and those are his genin students. Waiting for the right moment, she decided to analyze the genin present as well. Wow, that pink-haired girl really stands out, even more than Naruto-kun's outfit does. And the way she's standing and watching tells me she's not really prepared for being in real shinobi situations. Probably a civilian descendant. The two boys look less shocked, so they probably come from clans. The one in blue looks like he's itching to get in the fight, but the other one seems to know to keep his distance. They all look like this is their first time out of the village and weren't expecting much to encounter. Zabuza and the Konoha Jounin both did water dragon attacks at the same time, and both looked out of breath. Now's my chance. Haku then pulled out her senbon needles and threw them with great accuracy at a few pressure points on her adoptive father's neck. They hit their mark and he fell down. Before the Konoha Jounin could get a good look, she jumped to land behind Zabuza. Thanks for weakening him for me. I'll take it from here. She then grabbed him, and shoved the two away back towards her group before anyone could ask any questions. If that Jounin was competent in any way, he'd figure out she wasn't a real hunter nin and she wanted to be out of there before her bluff was called. Once she got back to her allies, Haku removed the senbon as gently as she could. Zabuza still groaned in pain. Sorry about that, but we figured you needed to get out of there. Zabuza immediately recognized her voice. What are you doing here? That's actually what we want to ask you. Anko stated, standing over the swordsman. Zabuza coughed before answering. Otokage-sama told me to come here a few days ago. Wanted me to keep an eye out for Konoha nin around the main town. Anko didn't look all that surprised. So you sent someone in ahead of us, Ji-san? Is it because you were worried about us, or do you suspect more than you told me? Knowing him, I suspect the latter. How'd you get here before us? Sasami asked. Zabuza weakly laughed, then ached. I'm a Jounin for a reason, kid. Kurane knelt down to face him better. What can you tell us about those you were just fighting against? Not much. Other than the one competent one was apparently Konoha's copy in Kakashi Hatake. Anko looked disturbed and then knelt down as well. Seriously? You're sure it was him? Yeah. He had a single Sharingan and mimicked all my moves trying to psych me out. Anko growled and balled up her fist. Then, surprising and frightening everyone else, she stopped and smiled. At least I finally get to kick his ass. You know the guy Ne-chan? Naruto asked. Anko nodded. Not in a good way, Otauto. Let's just say back in Konoha he was one of those that called for your death, and he once threw a kunao at me for defending you when I was 6. She then gingerly touched her shoulder where she still had the scar from that event. Tsunami stepped forward. Sorry to say this, but if they're with my father, then that guarantees you'll be running into them at my house shortly. Try not to fight too much, we don't want to lose our home to more violent jerks. Inari practically commanded. We'll take it outside if it comes to that, kid. Anko told them, then faced everyone all together. Alright everyone, let's try to get to their home before the old man and his guards do. Naruto, think you can fly us one more time? Sorry sensei, but I'd rather conserve my strength for now. Besides, we need Tsunami-san to lead us. He answered. Okay then, so let's get moving. Bring Zabuza-san with us too so he can be treated. What will my grandpa and those ninjas say if they see you bring him to our house? Inari asked. We'll treat him elsewhere, and it would be best if neither of you said a word about this. Don't want any unnecessary violence on your property, do you? Kurane asked as she hoisted Zabuza onto Anko's back to be carried. Will you be staying at our house until this mission for you is over? Tsunami asked. Under the circumstances, I personally think it would be best if we don't. What do you guys think? Anko replied before addressing all other shinobi. I gotta agree. Housing ninja from rival villages under one roof can only bring about disastor. Kurane added. But why do we have to be the ones to stay outside? Sasami asked. 1. We got someone who needs to recuperate without interference, and 2. We need to check around the town to see any suspicious activity involving Leaf Nin, and we can't do that if a group of Leaf Nin are aware we're here and they can keep their eyes on us. Kurane explained. Plus, it never hurts to have a little survival training and experience thrown in. Anko commented. Now let's get going, we've wasted enough time as it is. Everyone then rushed to their destination, even the clients. About an hour later, Tajuna unlocked the door to his house and went inside, along with his ninja bodyguards. "Hello? Anyone here?" he called out since it sounded quieter than he expected. Tsunami poked her head out from the kitchen. "Welcome back, Ota-san. Glad to see you're not hurt. How was the trip?" No one suspected a thing. CH-23 strategies. "Well, since we can't crash at an actual house, can we got to a hotel or something?" Few asked the instructors while they walked into the woods around their client's property. "I suppose we can at least look around for one," Kurane answered. "Aren't you used to sleeping outside on missions?" Anko asked. "Doesn't mean I'll turn down the chance to sleep indoors," the green-haired Jinhiriki replied, remembering several times back in Taki she had been forced to sleep outdoors. "And besides, we've already established that there are enemy ninja in the area. Camping out will give them an opportunity to ambush us if they discover us, but staying in a hotel will thwart them lest they not care about keeping an image in the area." "She's got a point," Kurane whispered to Anko. "And it would help Zabuza-san recover if he were indoors." "Alright then. I'm all for a comfortable in-room too. Let's go find one," the purple-haired Jounin told her team, then faced Naruto specifically. "By the way, Otauto, since Konoha is in the area now, and especially considering who's in their group, we're going to have to go with our aliases for the rest of the mission." Naruto nodded, and while the rest of his team understood, Kurane's didn't. "Aliases?" Seisumi asked. "Yeah, it's a defense for the two of us in case we ever encountered any Konoha shinobi," Anko answered. "Officially, we've been dead to them for 10 years, but there's still a chance we could run into someone who'd recognize us and figure out everything Otokage-sama set up back then was faked. This Kakashi jerk is a likely one to do that. So the two of us will use fake names to at least avoid outright exposing ourselves." "So what's the new names we should know?" Haku asked. "We'll still go by Anko and Naruto, to make it easier on you guys and the clients. But our family name will be Urishi for the both of us. And Naruto, you'll have to hide your whisker marks. Dead giveaway." Hinata and Isaribi soon applied some makeup to Naruto's cheeks to hide his whiskers, and then everyone went to go find a hotel to check into, with Kurane carrying the immobile Zabuza on her back. Once the group of Oto ninja went into the main town, they were pretty disturbed to see what kind of shape it was in. The heart of downtown could barely be described as better than a slum. Doors and windows of empty shops were boarded up, and those that weren't out of business yet looked like nothing short of the grace of Kami was keeping them from it. And every one of the locals gave this group some distance and cautious looks. Under the circumstances it was entirely normal. Some locals gave the girls interested looks as well, and the fact that Naruto was the only mobile guy in the group made some feel bolder than others. One particular man, once a mediocre fisherman but a random pauper now, approached the group of shinobi. He saw the headbands but didn't recognize the music note symbol, so he figured they couldn't possibly be professional ninjas. Also, he was a bit of a sexist, so that factored into his judgment here too. "Hey ladies, wanna come to my place today? You must be new to town, so I'll let ya know there's few places to sleep peacefully nowadays here." Hinata and Isaribi took a step back to feel guarded by Naruto. Luckily the other kunoichi weren't strangers to these types of situations and knew how to handle it. Anko crossed her arms and smirked. "Thanks for the kind offer, but we're not staying for the night." "Aw, come on, Gel. It'll be worth your while," the pauper added, wiggling his eyebrows for effect. Anko acted like she was flattered. "In that case, can I put a little perfume on now?" "Sure. Knock yourself out." Anko then pulled out a small canister. "Actually, I think I'll knock you out instead." She then sprayed some pepper spray, ninja strength, at the harasser. The effect was like a bee sting right on the eye. The man screamed, clutched his eyes, and fell on the ground. Anko and the rest of the experienced kunoichi just walked past. Naruto, Hinata, and Isaribi were momentarily surprised by what they had just witnessed, but snapped out of it and caught up with the rest quickly. "Nice job, sensei," Hinata whispered. Anko grinned wickedly. Remember, a kunoichi's greatest weapon is catching a man off guard and playing on his lusts. Do that, and a direct fight is unneeded. Maybe I can use that to have some time with Naruto-kun. Isaribi quickly and deviously thought just then. Please tell me that's not where we'll stay. Sasami pleaded as a rundown hotel came into view. Let's just say in the condition it was in, the only guests you could expect here were vermin. I'm guessing that with the country as bad as it is, tourists don't bother coming by anymore. Kurane stated. Although both she and Anko had already figured that out. They just wanted their students to see it and the extent of the damage to the town for themselves. It would provide a good motivator for them later on. So it's this bad, even with Daimyo-sama providing financial aid? Hinata asked. Anko nodded. Obviously. But remember, we don't know how much money he's giving, and either way he has to do it in secret, or else Gato would just be more brutal in an effort to collect it quicker. Which is why we have to eliminate him. Naruto commented. Anko nodded. Right, but let's continue this discussion elsewhere. She quickly led everyone into a forested area and summoned several snakes to act as sort of watchdogs. And then she also activated a soundproof dome barrier to ensure no one overheard them. We can't risk what I'm about to explain being overheard by anyone. Remember, there's a chance some of the villagers here may act as eyes and ears to Gato in exchange for better treatment from him. Ninja are not the only ones we should be cautious of here. The students didn't think of that, but after hearing it, it made a lot of sense. Even if tyrants were hated, some of their victims would sell out others to better their own situations and gain approval from the tyrant. It happened a lot in history. Kurane set down Zabuza, who remained conscious enough to hear everything, as Anko explained what she was thinking. This Gato guy is a business tycoon, not a warrior. And since he's at the top of the business, that means he's much more likely to have others do his work for him, rarely getting directly involved unless he's overcome with curiosity or thinks the job's not getting done well enough. Because of this, eliminating him isn't as easy as it sounds. Because to eliminate him, we have to be in the same place he is at some time. Sasami thought out loud. Anko nodded. Exactly. Somehow, we need to draw him out, or discover his whereabouts. Sadly, the first option is the easier. If we did happen to capture one of his cronies and get him to crack, Gato most likely has a bunch of low-life thugs under his thumb, and I'm betting he has plenty of ways to get rid of them should they double-cross him. It's likely he'd be prepared for a ninja assault. Getting him to come to us puts the odds in our favor. And how do we do that? Naruto asked. Anko shrugged. I'm not so sure right now. Kurane-chan, you got any ideas? The genjutsu expert put her chin in her hand, showing she was thinking. If we were to make it look like the bridge is about to be completed, then Gato will likely come out of hiding to personally do something about it. Remember, he wants the people here too afraid to oppose him. So by coming here when the bridge is nearly complete with the intent to destroy it and kill some of those involved, he sends a frightful message to anyone left. The Mizukage did something similar once. Only it involved someone speaking for the rights of Kekkei Genkai wielders. Zabuza added in. Okay, since Gato should most fear the completion of the bridge, if it begins to look like a reality, he'll send hired goons to kill the construction crew, the initial planner, and demolish the structure too. If we prevent that, and even use some tricks to make it appear the bridge is getting done sooner, then he should get desperate and reveal himself. And then we kill him. Anko summarized with a smile. What about a dead man switch? Zabuza asked. None of the genin understood that, but Anko and Kurane caught on. Oh crap, didn't think of that. Good thinking, Zabuza-san. What did he mean by that? Naruto asked. Dead man switch is the term used to mean a vengeful fail-safe movement. The name comes from the idea of a weapon that works when the wielder is dead. Think of a paper bomb trap that you keep wrapped around yourself, but instead of activating when you put chakra into it, it activates when you stop. Therefore, if you were to die or run out of chakra, then it explodes, destroying you and hopefully your enemies as well. Same basic principle. Anko explained. Some strategies are similar. Kurane added. The Altos know what to do in the event the Otokage is killed and how to find the killer. They're trained for that beforehand. And if a team fails to return home, that tells the Kage of the village to send a second group to see what happened and finish the job. Geto may have some of his men prepared to do something if he were to simply vanish. Only after the bridge is complete can these people truly be safe from him. But he's not a ninja. Would he use such a tactic? Hinata asked. We should be prepared for it anyway. Kurane answered. There is a chance we're overthinking what the enemy may have planned, but overthinking is more likely to succeed than underthinking. Naruto nodded. Okay, so we have a plan regarding our target. How does Konoha's involvement play into this? Preferably we don't interact with them at all. However, if they're here on behalf on the head of the bridge project like Tajuna told us, then that will complicate things. Anko stated with a sigh. It's likely that interacting with them will be inevitable, and to avoid any unnecessary conflict, we can't interfere with their mission or fight them unprovoked. To the genin it sounded obvious enough, but there was something they didn't quite grasp. If there was a fight and Konoha could effectively place the blame on Oto, then they might be able to declare war on the village. They might not, as Oto was hidden from them and too small to be too much of a threat, but if by chance Konoha did try then it would cause trouble. Also, Konoha would seek out their allies to help find Oto, which would ultimately reveal Suna's and Taki's real alliances, which could end up sparking the Fourth Great Ninja War. So in the long run, as long as they didn't make any malicious moves towards the Konoha shinobi, they could remain living the way they liked. But in the event these Konoha nin made the first move, then the Oto shinobi could retaliate justifiably. Although even then Konoha might try and do something back. And what do we do if they won't do the same? Isaribi asked, already sure of the answer but wanting confirmation. The same thing we do to any enemy, fight back. Anko answered. Okay, now that that's covered, let's set up a base camp. Kurane told everyone. We should go deeper into the woods to make it less likely to get company. Also with Zabuza-san here incapacitated, someone will have to remain with him at all times until he recovers, so somewhere where our enemies would be unlikely to go to is obviously preferable. It didn't take them long to find a good enough spot. Open enough that they could set up tents, but discreet enough that only someone trying to get there would. There was no fresh water in the immediate area, but it could be gotten with a 20-minute walk north. That night everyone went to sleep in their tents, with Naruto and Zabuza sharing while two people took guard shifts for 3 hours throughout the night. It was rather uneventful, which was a good thing for now. Ch24 conflicts. The next day proved to be difficult to schedule for the Oto nin. Someone had to stay and watch over Zabuza at all times until he recovered. According to Haku, it should only take about a week at most, but until then his mobility was limited to about as good as someone twice his age. And not only that, someone had to check around town for the suspicious ninja activity reported to them by Tsunami. The genin team from Konoha led by Kakashi was ruled out for consideration since Tsunami didn't recognize a single one of them. So they had to check for other ninja in the area, which was often about as easy as looking for a needle in a haystack. For the time being they split into two initial groups. The first group consisted of just Naruto, Haku, and Kurane keeping guard over Zabuza and their campsite. The rest formed the group that would check the town out for anything unusual, and they would have to split into smaller groups to cover more ground. At the moment Haku was standing looking for herbs and Kurane was standing watch, leaving Naruto to go forage for food and water. Rather than waste his time scouting the area, he activated his Neo-Byakugan and looked over the entire area at once. He found some apple trees with their fruit in good condition and some rabbits by the creek they already knew the location of, but one thing in particular caught his attention the most. He saw one grown man with crutches talking to three kids his own age about 43 meters to the northwest. That must be the Konoha genin team that came here with Tsunami-san's father. Wonder what they're doing. Naruto thought, focusing his attention on them now. He saw the Jounin start to walk up a tree slowly and his students look on in awe. The Jounin came to a stop and said something to them before tossing them each a kunao. Naruto could only shake his head at this. Are you kidding me? These genin are taking missions outside the village and they're just now learning to walk up trees? And why are they so surprised to see such a thing? Haven't they ever actually noticed what the ninja in their own villages do? Naruto decided to ignore it for now and went back to getting supplies. In no time at all he had water, fruit, and meat for his comrades and brought them back to their campsite. Got it, Kurane-sensei. Thanks Naruto. By the way, I noticed something rather peculiar involving the known Konoha ninja here. Naruto added. Kurenai arched an eyebrow. Go on. It appears they are almost no threat. The genin are just now learning to tree walk and look like they never knew such a thing was possible. As for the jounin, he's mobile but as slow as a tortoise. Kurenai thought this over. That does sound rather pathetic, but then again the Hokage did select them for this mission. We gotta assume they have some skills we don't know about. She then cleared her throat. Naruto, I want you to go back and get a closer, longer look. See what you can about them all. We need to see what it is about them that made them the ninja chosen to be here. Naruto nodded. Okay, I'll do what I can. He then disappeared back into the forest. Naruto had no trouble finding them when he reactivated his Neo-Byakugan. His eyes showed him that the Kunoichi genin was making the most progress so far. Naruto settled on a branch not within seeing or hearing range, and stayed downwind since the team had a dog with them. For a while nothing happened that really struck him as interesting. So he decided to take a close look at the ninja to see if he should be wary for anything. The first one he studied was the jounin, since Anko seemed to recognize him. If she was right, then this man was the infamous copycat Kakashi Hatake, once a student of the Yondaime Hokage. And he was one of the first people to call for his death back in Konoha. Naruto frowned, thinking his father would probably knock his student senseless if he was still around for that. Yes, Naruto knew who his birth parents were. The Sannin saw no reason to hide that info from him since no one in Oto wanted him dead and Iwa was confirmed as no threat. In fact, only Konoha could pose a threat to him if that info got out, so it was kept under wraps and he still used his mother's name. One could only imagine the commotion Konoha would cause if they heard so much as a rumor that there was someone using the name Namikaze, and worse, for another village. Naruto kept most of his attention on Kakashi at first, trying to size the man up completely so he'd have some understanding of what he may someday be up against. Kakashi's most notable feature was that his left eye was covered up. According to Orochimaru, that eye was actually a Sharingan, currently the only working one in Konoha. He had used it to copy over 1,000 techniques, each of which he knew how to use effectively. Although no one in Oto knew exactly how he got it. He may be dangerous once he heals. But Nei-chan's more likely to deal with him than me if the situation does come up. I'd more likely have to handle his students. Let's see what they got up their sleeves. The first one of the students Naruto observed was the one that stood out the most. The girl with the pink hair and large forehead, currently sitting on a branch watching her teammates continue to struggle. Her gaze focused almost solely on one teammate in particular, indicating a personal preference. Naruto's Neo-Byakugan showed him her chakra coils were small and her muscles only at academy build, and there was little fat anywhere in her body, including her breasts. Judging from her physiology, Naruto suspected this girl had no training or tutoring outside academy classes, meaning she was lazy in training or not of a ninja family. Maybe even both. The way she watched her teammate and looked at him while doing so probably meant she was infatuated with him. Naruto then checked out the next one to catch his attention, which happened to be the guy closest to the pink-haired girl at the moment. This was a guy who wore a jacket and carried a dog in it with him. The Neo-Byakugan showed he had 2 streaks on his face and small fangs in his mouth, classic markings of the Inuzuka clan. His physiology showed he was serious about his training and did it regularly, resulting in strong muscles and healthy chakra coils. And his dog was in good shape too. Naruto knew this guy could prove to be a handful if he ever faced him. And finally, he looked over at the last one present, the one on the other side of the girl. It was a guy with hair shaped like a duck's ass, who wore a blue shirt with almost white tan shorts. His shirt had a red and white fan symbol on the back of it, probably a clan symbol but not one Naruto knew off the top of his head. He was also the one the girl was intently observing, although his own expression showed he was focused solely on what he was doing. His chakra coils were the most well-formed out of the 3 but his muscles were probably second compared to the Inuzuka boy. Meaning this guy was the better at ninjutsu but the Inuzuka was physically stronger. Before Naruto could continue watching, he saw with his Jujutsu Kakashi sensing his presence finally and prepare a fire jutsu to get rid of him. Since he was weakened it was easy for Naruto to get away from the damage in time. Naruto deactivated his bloodline, running out of time for it anyway and anticipating a possible search for him by them. It turned out he was right, for the three genin showed up looking for him. They didn't see him, since he was up in a tree and they were on the ground looking for him on the ground. The Inuzuka's dog tried sniffing for their target, but everyone else was just using their eyes to search for him. Naruto almost laughed at them, but held it in so he could surprise them. Their teacher hadn't followed, since he needed crutches to stand up. Naruto decided to have some fun and catch them off guard. Wondering how to best do it, he got a wicked idea he just couldn't resist. After all, it worked so well on Jiraiya, so it should work even better on these guys. Hiding himself deeper into the foliage, he made a single hand sign and whispered the jutsu's name. The next thing the three genin knew, they were surrounded by a group of barely dressed, or maybe not dressed at all, identical blonde girls with killer figures, all running out from behind the trees happily to greet them. The girl was mortified, the duck-ass guy was shocked, and the Inuzuka looked like all his prayers had been answered. Naruto wasn't sure which knocked the Inuzuka out first, the massive nosebleed of the hit on the head he got from the angry at his reaction Pinkette. The girl then glared at all the girls who were hanging onto the duck-ass guy, who for some reason now shrugged the whole thing off, before she tried to wail on them all. She didn't get the chance to, as all the clones vanished in a puff of smoke, clouding their vision long enough for Naruto to get away unnoticed. Meanwhile, Sasami and Isaribi were checking out the south end of the town. Hinata and Anko were checking out the north end while Fu was checking out the east end. An intercom link was being used between them all, with an emergency link to Kurane should something big come up. While they were searching for anything out of the ordinary, the two had a little girl talk as well. And there was one topic in particular that was sure to keep both their interests. So I bet having Naruto-kun as a teammate is a lot of fun. Sasami started to break the ice. Isaribi nodded with a small smile. Yeah, but Hinata takes a lot of his attention. I bet that's frustrating, but if he's happy then I guess that's for the best. Sasami said with a sigh. She had gotten to know Naruto as a common sparring partner so both could learn a variety of techniques and counter-techniques, mostly regarding weaponry, and she had grown fond of the blonde in that time. Isaribi looked around them to make sure no one was nearby, both because of her job and for the sake of privacy. Hey, you remember that little bit of info regarding him and other girls? Sasami nodded. Well, I'm going for it. If I get the chance, that is. Really? Sasami asked. Is anyone else? I haven't heard. Why? You interested too? Gotta admit the idea has crossed my mind, and I'm not against it. I think Haku and Fu are eager too though. I'm not surprised. Hey, maybe the four of us should have our way with him while we're here. Isaribi joked. The orange-haired girl arched an eyebrow. Tempting, but wouldn't Hinata break our necks for getting to him first? I never said we had to go all the way, just have some fun with him. Sasami giggled. Wonder how far we can go before we break him. Isaribi giggled too at the thought. Before the two kunoichi could continue their chat, they thought they saw someone glance their way and disappear, as if spying on them. Immediately suspicious, the two decided to see what was going on. To avoid being noticed by their potential spy, the two went to the rooftops, only to see someone else already on them trying to get away quickly. Obviously someone was trying to watch us, got spotted, and is trying to get away. Sasami stated as she and Isaribi tried to follow. Any idea who they are? Nope, and it doesn't matter. We should assume they're a threat for now. The unidentified target never turned around to see how close they were or stopped in his journey to wherever he was going. He quickly left the town and got to the shore, where he dived under the water and just disappeared, with no bubbles floating to the surface. Sasami was downright confused, but Isaribi was curious. I'll handle it from here. You stay to make sure no one else shows up. Sasami nodded, and Isaribi dived into the water. It was darker than she was used to, but luckily she had plenty of experience navigating underwater. Diving deeper, she looked for any signs of a person, while noting with pleasure the undersea environment. Isaribi didn't see any actual people, but she did notice something that shouldn't have been there. A door. And not a piece of debris thrown out to sea, This door was attached to the ground and had some small red lights outlining it, probably to make it more visible to whoever needed to access it. Either these guys are idiots, or they don't expect anyone else to go swimming here this deep. The purple-haired girl thought quickly. I wonder how you open it. I don't see any keyhole. Maybe they're smarter than I give them credit for. Rather than try to figure it out just then, Isaribi surfaced for another breath and then went back down. When she got back to the door, she saw it begin to open in a trapdoor-like fashion, creating some suction she got caught up in and couldn't fight. Before she knew it, she was pulled in, and landed in a room that drained the water out and gave her room to breath. Isaribi coughed a little and took a few breaths before she noticed where she was. A wall made of glass with a closed glass door separated her from another room with two men in black ninja outfits. On the wall she saw some monitors showing images of the sea, meaning they must have spotted her swimming around. Both men pulled out some katanas and walked towards her. "Oh crap!" was all she could mutter. CH-25 rescue. Isaribi got on her feet and pulled out two kunai, one for each hand, and took a defensive stance against her captors. They didn't look intimidated once they got into the light and she could see their faces. They didn't look worried, or bothered, or even happy at the prospect of a kill. They didn't look anything, like their faces were frozen in an apathetic stare. She didn't like it, it felt so inhuman. With their swords out, one of the men opened the door into their room, but not to let her enter. Rather it was so they could get to her and cut her to pieces. She briefly wondered if they expected her to just stand there and let it happen. Either way, she wasn't going to. Since the out opened out, from Isaribi's position, it was easier for her to ambush them than for them to ambush her. So she jolted out the door and used a kunai to cut the chest of one guy, but the door blocked her attack on the other guy. Isaribi quickly put some distance between herself and her captives and took another look to see anything she should be wary of. The first thing she noticed was that the guy she had wounded acted like it didn't hurt. He definitely acknowledged the wound by touching it and wiping off his blood, but his expression was unpained and unchanged. Almost as if he didn't recognize pain. The next thing she noticed was that neither of them wore any symbols telling where their allegiance laid. These must be the suspicious ninja we were warned about. I should focus more on getting out of here than fighting them. Isaribi thought, looking for a way out without taking her eyes off them. Odds are likely I can't get out the same way I got it, and it's highly unlikely that an underwater base wouldn't have an emergency exit of some sort. Isaribi started backing away without making it look obvious. Unfortunately her current adversaries saw that and advanced forward to restrain her. Isaribi ducked down and used her kunais to cut their calves. Since any water jutsu might flood the place, she was limited to solely taijutsu and weapon handling here, but that meant her enemies were too. The downside was they looked like they were jounins or at least strong chiryunins. The odds weren't in her favor, so she had to get out of here. I guess I only really have one option. The purple-haired girl thought. During the brief time her opponents couldn't stand, she raced to the back of the room and opened the door. There were no locks on it because the only ones intended to be here wouldn't need to lock themselves out. There was a short hallway, if you could call it that, with two doors, each one opposite the other. With no time to think, she went inside the left one hoping it would lead out. It didn't. Instead this was a white room like one would find in a hospital, complete with a respirator and heart monitor, and even a patient on a bed. Curious, Isaribi got a closer look and saw a sleeping woman, who was quite attractive if even a little unkempt. Her long hair was a rich red and her face looked gentle and peaceful, but that was probably because she was unconscious. There was an IV hooked to her right arm and the heart monitor showed a steady pulse. Her skin was a healthy shade, so Isaribi wondered why she was here and in such a condition. Before she could try to figure it out, the unidentified shinobi caught up to her and they didn't look too pleased with her. "Get away from our leader's prize," one coldly demanded. Isaribi approached the part of the room where the equipment wasn't and put a paper bomb on the wall. The bomb went off just before one of the unmarked ninja would have been able to stab Isaribi in the stomach. The blast of the explosion sent them both back flying, but Isaribi landed away from him. Warning sirens went off and cracks in the walls formed, letting seawater enter. It started slow, but would soon speed up. Isaribi got back on her feet. Water style, water drill jutsu. The water rose into the form of a whirling drill and shot right into the stone wall with a lot of force, carving a hole to the outside. As expected, a lot more seawater came inside and flooded the place. She then grabbed a hold of the unconscious woman, unhooked her, and got her on her back. Isarabi took a deep breath and used her chakra to propel herself against the current and suction to get outside. Before she could reach the surface, she felt a chain wrap around her ankle, pulling her back down. She turned to see the two strange ninja with new mouthpieces trying to catch her. One held the base of the chain used to catch her while the other held a long ninjato, ready to skewer her once she got close enough. And both were swimming towards her. Knowing that resisting would only result in her and the woman drowning, Isarabi prepared a jutsu specifically designed to be used in water or underwater. Unable to say the name, she mouthed it. Water style, water torpedo jutsu. At her hands the water condensed and darkened, then shot at her targets with the force of a cannonball in a shape similar to that of a featureless shark. Both of her targets dodged, but the attack turned around behind them and hit the chainwolder from behind, making him drop it. Isarabi took the chance to use the slack in the chain to get loose and then swim to the surface for a much-needed breath. Just as she surfaced and inhaled, she felt a sharp blade graze her right abdomen. The cut was deep but not threatening, probably meant more to make her bleed a lot than downright kill her right away or harm the woman. When the man surfaced and stood on the water to attack her from above when her hands were full keeping the woman afloat, Isarabi inadvertently activated her curse mark and became covered in dark wavy lines. The purple-haired Oto Genin briefly let go of her cargo and dove under the man who tried to kill her. He thrust his sword into the water hoping to strike her, but she was too deep to reach. She tried to swim upwards and give him an uppercut, but he dodged and gave her a small cut on her arm. Now Isarabi was really hoping there weren't any sharks in the area. Once back underwater, Isarabi kept a close eye on her target. He could see her, but just stood there, as if waiting for her to resurface and then kill her. She knew this was inevitable, but luckily she had a good lung capacity and she was probably the only person outside Land of Water who bothered to learn underwater warfare. So far that had been her best advantage here. She prepared another set of hand signs and mouthed the name. Water style, Aqua Vacuum Jutsu. The water in front of her created suction that pulled whatever was on the surface down under, much like a whirlpool, only without the spin included. The swordsman and the unconscious woman were pulled under, unable to fight it off. She readied another water torpedo jutsu and checked on the woman when it took effect, and pulled her back up. At the surface, Isarabi saw this woman was still breathing under her own power, which she took as a good sign. Isarabi was caught by surprise and pulled back. The sword-using ninja had gotten back to the surface and grabbed a hold of her hair to do so and was ready to slit her throat. Isarabi couldn't think of a good enough defense in time, and closed her eyes. Goodbye Naruto-kun, I hope you're happy with Hinata and the others I couldn't be a part of. She felt her would-be killer jerk as if struck by something, making her open her eyes. She saw he now had a kunao tip sticking out of the front of his neck and another kunao piercing the hand that had been holding the ninjato, which had been dropped upon injury. Taking a chance, Isarabi struggled to get out of his weak grip and got back to the surface while he began sinking. Once at the surface, she saw Sasami standing on the water holding out more weapons. Are there more? The orange-haired Kunoichi asked. Isarabi shook her head. No, I only saw two. Where's the other one? I got that guy while you were busy with him. He was a tough one, but he's fish food now. Who's this with you? Isarabi started pushing the woman towards the shore. I don't know, I found her in their hideout, and they said she was their leader's prize. I wonder what's so special about her. Better let Kurane-sensei and Anko-sensei worry about that. Sasami commented. Once out of the water they rested her on the sand and treated Isarabi's wounds. Sasami then used their comlink to contact the others. Come in guys, we found something important. Over. After a few seconds, someone responded. I hear you. What did you find? Over. It was Fu's voice. We'll show you, so get everyone to return to camp. We'll be there soon. Over and out. 30 minutes later, all of the Oto shinobi were gathered together at their campsite. Naruto was out keeping an eye out for the Konoha ninja team and to keep them off the Oto team's trail if needed. Sasami and Isaribi had brought the unconscious woman to them as carefully as possible and told of their encounter, with Isaribi saying the most. Anko and Kurane shared a look before saying anything. Kurane spoke first. Whoever this woman is, she must have something significant about her. Maybe she comes from a noble family here or something. Hinata used her Byakugan to check out the woman internally. Actually, Kurane-sensei, I think she's a kunoichi. Her muscles are larger than any civilian and her chakra coils are too large to be anything else. Oddly, they remind me of Narukans in terms of size alone. So we have here a powerful kunoichi that's unconscious and captured by Kami knows who. Anko groaned. What else can you tell us, Hinata-chan? Kurane asked. Not much else. Narukan's Neobyakugan should probably take a look too though. I'll speak of the devil. Anko said as Naruto showed up. I take it they won't find us anytime soon. Naruto shook his head. Nope. Shadow clones are amazing that way. But I wouldn't recommend no guards tonight still. He then noticed the new person in the area. Hey, who's this? I found here being kept in an underwater base by what I presume to be the unwarranted ninja our client told us about. Isaribi answered. I'd say she's in a coma but somehow stable enough to not need life support. That's not normal. Naruto stated, remembering some things Tsunade taught him. We should take her to a hospital right away. If we do that, those ninja that contained her will easily be able to reacquire her. Kurane told him firmly. Isaribi looked confused. But Sasami-chan and I got rid of them. Kurane shook her head. It's highly unlikely that there were only 2 of them to begin with. That base was most likely a safe place to hide themselves and their prisoner. You 2 most likely only dealt with the place's watchmen, while the real threat was elsewhere. Isaribi paled. Oh crap, you mean those 2 were just the security guards? It's likely. We can't just assume we or her are out of danger just yet. By the way, Naruto, can you use your Neobyakugan to give her a look over? Kurane answered, then asked. Sure. Naruto said, then activated his first Dojutsu and looked at the woman internally. Okay, her chakra system appears large but somehow diluted to a dangerous point, her heart is going at a steady pace, her bones are all in one piece, there's nothing wrong with her lungs, and, wow. That's odd. What? Everyone asked, suddenly all ears. On her stomach there's what I think are pieces of a broken seal on her, much like. Naruto suddenly paled. Kit, I know this woman. Kyubai's voice suddenly told him. You do? How? Naruto asked. I'll explain in a moment. For now, try to put some of mine and your chakra into her. It'll help her recover. Kyubai responded. Put our chakra into her? Are you crazy? Your chakra might kill her. Naruto mentally shouted. Kit, I swear it won't. Believe me, I know her, but I thought she was dead. That's why I didn't recognize her right away. But if it is really her, then our combined chakra should help her right now. But what if it doesn't? She's in a coma. Would she really be any worse off? Kyubai practically roared. Okay, I see your point. Naruto sighed, figuring the fox would keep harping on him until he at least made some kind of effort. I'm going to try something. He told everyone, and then gathered his chakra into his hands for a healing jutsu, with a small amount of Kyubai's added in. Upon contact the woman's body jerked, as if stung by something. Naruto worried, but his Neobyakugan showed him that her chakra levels were steady rising to a healthy amount. Suddenly the woman gasped and sighed, making Naruto stop. The woman tilted her head to the side, the first signs of voluntary movement she had ever showed, and her eyelids twitched and then slowly opened to reveal deep violet eyes. She tried to speak, but only a cough came out. She then tried to sit up, but her body wouldn't cooperate. Even her arms protested her mental commands. So she resorted to just lying there, asking the people with her gaze just where she was. Kit, say hello to your mother. Kyubai said. Check the description for the links to the author.